Hey, well, hi there.
Hello.
Could you tell me your name?
Yes, my name is Cindy Powell.
And Cindy, you've been riding glide cycles, I understand, for what, 2,500 miles? How much do you have?
Probably at least 3,000 miles by now.
3,000 miles by now? How do you keep track of it?
Using a Garmin GPS monitor.
Which model do you like?
I think it's the GPS 500.
Okay. And what was it like when you first started to ride glide cycles? What was your physical condition and age?
Oh gosh, I was 40 years old and I was frustrated by a few injuries that made the type of exercise that I like to do quite difficult. I've been a collegiate volleyball player and a mountain bike racer and just really like to stay fit, and my choices were becoming more and more narrowed by knee pain and a recent back injury. So I was pretty stiff after some treatments and not real strong and not as fit as I'd like to be. And I ran into this product, which let me work back up to the intensity that I'd wanted to work up to for a long time.
How serious was your back injury and your leg injury?
The back injury was serious enough that I wasn't ever able to lift over 25 to 30 pounds again. It really limited how hard I could push and how long I could spend doing bicycling and hiking and everything else. Weight training was almost out. And my knees were just chronically inflamed all the time from cycling.
And now you work for the Glide Cycle company now, right?
Yes, I do.
That's fabulous. And I want to ask, over the 3,000 miles that you've run now, what's happened to your body? What are your observations about this piece of equipment?
Well, it was really surprising. After a couple months, I just started noticing, my gosh, my knees don't hurt anymore. The chronic inflammation was gone, and I had backed off of cycling and exercised mostly on the glide cycle, and I realized I could get my heart rate up and train as hard or as long as I wanted. I could do interval training, and things just really happened that were amazing. And the next thing I knew, my back pain had really subsided, and I was becoming stronger and stronger and noticing I could lift little heavier loads all the time and do things I wasn't able to do for so long. I was even able to start back into weight training again.
Do you think the glide cycle had an influence on that in your glide cycle training?
Absolutely. My knees were just chronically irritated. I was having to rotate swimming, cycling, walking, and doing nothing. And all of a sudden on this thing I could train 7 days a week without problem. So by backing off of the things that irritated my body and becoming strong and fit and conditioned on this, it really rehabbed me back to the point if I want to take a nice bicycle ride, I can go enjoy it. And I can do a lot of the things I wasn't able to do before with confidence.
What is it about this equipment that allows you to do that?
Well,
to run without recovery?
First of all, there's very minimal impact on your joints, and there's much less of that eccentric decelerating strain that we get when we go out and exercise on other equipment. There's also no shearing or compressive forces like you get from cycling. And although my body gets fatigued, and it'll tell me I'll need more sleep when I do a lot of glide cycling, or I'll feel my muscles get fatigued, or I'll just feel like I want to be done, I want to quit. I get off of this and I never feel that stiffness and soreness and discomfort that I feel from any of the gym exercises or that running would cause, or even long-term cycling. When you get off your bike, your knees and back and everything are stiff and shoulders are stiff, and you have to just work on walking normal for the first few steps. You don't have any of that with this. I actually feel almost refreshed, or my legs still feel springy even when I'm fatigued on this. It's a great feeling.
That's very, very interesting. Now, you are, by profession, what?
I'm a physical therapist, a certified athletic trainer, and a strength training specialist, and my interest is really in exercise physiology.
So kind of an amateur exercise physiologist with a whole bunch of accredited knowledge behind that.
That's correct.
And you've trained and worked with high-profile collegiate teams and had some experience with pro sports to a little degree, and now you're finding yourself working with a lot of individual clients that you train to run on GlideCycle. What have been some of the things that you've seen happen to other people who've learned to ride this?
Oh, I've gotten to share all the wonderful experiences that I've had. I've seen people clear up into their 70s who really miss running be able to jump on this and run again. I've seen multiple people lose a tremendous amount of weight, even small amounts, 12 to 15 pounds, but also up to about 50 pounds on here. I've seen people's spirits and confidence soar. I've seen people take charge of their health and their life again on this. I've seen people who just didn't have a mode of exercise that was working for them all of a sudden have hope once again. It's just been tremendous.
And why can't they do that on a bicycle or just by going out walking and running? What's the difference?
Some people can bicycle and achieve that. Some people's joints don't have the motion, or they're too chronically inflamed, say a hip or knee joints or neck or hand joints. Cycling can be challenging for some people. It's a great sport, but not everybody can do it. Not everybody enjoys the effort that they have to put into it. So,
that's interesting. So you find that for some people it becomes their primary mode of exercise.
yeah, and walking is great, but just walking on a treadmill in the gym the other day, comparing heart rate for the perceived exertion level, it's really tough to get your heart rate up high enough or burn enough calories for a lot of people's fitness and weight maintaining or weight loss goals. Walking's wonderful. The other thing I miss if I just walk is I don't get the endorphins. I like to get my heart rate just up high enough into that zone to experience that release of endorphins, and then I know that I'm training at a higher intensity. I'm able to burn more calories, stay more fit. So those are some of the reasons why people may do well with this. And it's great to have both tools. It's great to be able to walk and do this. It's great to be able to bicycle and do this. But this has really become my primary training tool. It started out as my cross trainer, and everything else became my secondary form of exercise, and this is really primary. It's really enjoyable, and it's much more efficient for a workout, and it's just a great tool.
So the GlideCycle might become a very interesting cross-training tool for other people. Could you tell me about what your feelings are about cross-training to bicycles, cross-training to running?
Well, this isn't just an interesting cross-training tool. I've never seen a better cross-training tool than this. For instance, for runners, this is the closest simulation to running outdoors you will ever find. And if you superimpose pictures of runners over glide cyclists, you're going to see that there's not a lot of variation in position, posture, or range of motion. They're very, very similar. The difference is this just gives you a slight support that they don't have.
What do you mean a slight support? You mean between steps, or?
Yes, with each step the seat suspends your body weight so that you don't receive the damaging, jarring impact. So runners tend to do more of an up-down motion, where glide cyclists, the emphasis for glide cycling is on more of a horizontal axis motion, forward-back.
Well, isn't that sort of like the same thing as cross-training to an elliptical trainer? Like there's the Elliptigo outdoor trainer?
Yeah, ellipticals and the Elliptigo aren't much different. With the elliptical trainer, again, it's very similar to cycling. You're not going to get full hip extension, and you're not going to engage your muscles quite as fully or bring as many of them into play as you do on the glide cycle. So it's not a bad motion, but it's also, the elliptical trainer is full weight bearing. This reduces a lot of the weight bearing that people's joints cannot tolerate, and not everybody can tolerate elliptical training for that reason. There are a lot of knee pains, there are hip pains that develop, there's a lot of foot pain and numbness. Sometimes people have SI joint problems, and you're in a very repetitive weight bearing motion where a lot of times all the weight bearing is on one foot at a time. And if people have any type of predisposition before getting on that, they may do well for a while, and then it may start to affect them. So
that's really interesting.
All exercises are good exercises, but some work a lot better for certain people, and this tends to work for almost everybody.
Well, I know myself, I'd like to run, have an elliptigo, and have a glide cycle, and have a bicycle. There's no reason not to cross-train on every tool available. Cross-training is fun. But what about cross-training to a bicycle? How would this differ for, what good would this be to, say, a pro bicyclist or an amateur bicyclist who just wants to go fast and enjoy?
I can't think of a better cross-training tool for a cyclist. And first of all, a lot of cyclists are old runners that can't run anymore. that would like to be able to. This brings you back to that love of running, having your feet engaged and in contact with the ground, being upright, moving, using those muscles the same way. But for cyclists, they tend to be stuck, and I'm a long-time cyclist, so I can say this for myself, in a very repetitive, limited, small arc of motion where they don't fully extend the hip joints or knee joints or back joints. It does not tend to challenge the core or the upper extremities nearly as much unless you get way out on a mountain bike and really purposely challenge those muscles. It's just so limited, and you can get conditions where you overdevelop the front of your hips and you underdevelop the posterior part, similar to rotator cuff pathology. So bicyclists really need a cross-training tool, and this really hits and targets those muscles that cycling neglects and brings you up into an upright posture. So I can't think of a better cross-training tool, and this has really made my ability to climb and cycle so much stronger. Plus, it's knocked my knee pain down from cycling enough that I can actually cycle again if I want to.
And when you say cycle, from your perspective, you were a sponsored racer.
I did a little racing and mountain biking and a little road bike racing and just absolutely love it. So, yeah, I was pretty serious about it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good perspective coming from you. Has it made you a better bicyclist?
It's really helped, especially with my climbing, to be better balanced, to have fresh legs, to not have chronic knee inflammation and hip inflammation. And there are a lot of people out there whose necks and hands, maybe they've had carpal tunnel syndrome or their neck is sensitive, can't tolerate the postures. They have to keep moving their bike up and up and up and up to where it's hard to be powerful. So this allows people to get out and be powerful. And there's one more thing, it's a very efficient workout. And cycling requires, at least myself and a lot of other people, to be out there for at least 45 minutes to get a real hearty workout. Where this is so efficient, I can bring my heart rate up fast, train in the zone that I want, work more muscles, engage a lot more muscles fully on this than I can on a bicycle. So that's really important. So this is my really efficient tool. Yet if I want to go out for 2 hours and have a great run on it and run over 20 miles, I can do that too and enjoy it.
What's your longest run?
About 25 miles.
That's a pretty good long, all things considered. Now, when you run on this as opposed to your bicycle, what kind of speeds are you hitting to reach the cardio levels that you want?
That's a good question. That depends. My road bike, I probably have to stay at least around 16 miles an hour or above to hit the aerobic level that I want. On the GlideCycle, I'm great at about 9 to 10 miles an hour. So I don't have to go at a breakneck speed or cover quite as much distance to get the same workout. Although it feels like I'm running fast. It feels like I'm superhuman, so it's fun. I feel like I'm fast, but 9 to 10 miles an hour for a good 2-hour run is a really good pace.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what does it feel like when you're done with a workout on a GlideCycle as opposed to a workout on an elliptical at the gym, for example?
It's a great feeling that I never quite get used to. I love it. I get off of this and my body feels fatigued. I've challenged my heart rate, clear up into the zone that I want to train in. I feel worked. I'm ready to get off. But I don't feel stiff and sore and beat up when I get off of this. That's the one thing that everybody notices. I actually feel almost refreshed at times, especially after shorter runs, and energized.
And when you say shorter, how far would that be?
Oh gosh, like 8 to 12 miles.
That's short for you.
Yeah, that's a good hour and 15 minutes.
Well, what if I was 60 years old and 40 pounds overweight? How much could I run?
You could run as much as you could build up your endurance to run.
What have you seen people doing?
Gosh, people in their 60s and 70s, it's not uncommon. I mean, we've had people run up to 8 to 12 miles there and be successful. People in their 50s running up to 17 miles.
Is that regularly or just once and then they're dead?
I think they've all worked up to it. So, and they'll probably keep working now that they know they can do that. We'll see a lot more of that out of them.
Is there anyone who shouldn't ride a GlideCycle?
I think it would be on a very case-by-case individual basis to find a person who shouldn't. We really check people to make sure that they don't have a back condition or something that would where they would struggle on this, but we've looked for those people and we just haven't found them. People that follow a sensible program can work up to using this.
Even with bad backs?
They do it right. I'd say most people with most back conditions that we have encountered have been able to work up to this. And a lot of people have bought these for other reasons and just so happen to have a back condition. So we've had a lot of opportunity to test that out. That we may run into an occasional case here and there where someone may not tolerate it for one reason or another, if they have a severe instability or something, or they're just too acutely painful. But for the most part, people have done really well with this.
Well, that's wonderful news for a lot of people who would like to get exercise at various stages of their lives. And can we talk about like sports, for example, right now? What do you think this would be in application for sports such as baseball or football, or the kind of school sports and then college sports and maybe even pro sports? What's your opinion?
Well, it fits right in. Anybody involved in those sports has to run. And this is a great form of running enhancement and sports performance. For example, what better way could you find to work on speed training? You don't have to jar your joints by running downhill anymore or running against resistance bands. This is a great form of overspeed training. Power training is highly possible on this, on a track or on hills. Stride lengthening is a great benefit of this, stretching out the body, working the core. I mean, all the advantages to running are here, and these athletes can use this to not only enhance their performance, but this is a wonderful sports injury recovery tool. It's a great off-season training tool. It's a great way to get more aerobics and still keep your legs fresh, as I think it's very important to show up with your legs conditioned but really recovered and ready to go. It's a lot of fun, especially people like the heavier linemen that are always trying to watch their weight, and some of them aren't so comfortable running. This is a great tool for them. I mean, they can meet all of their fitness goals, any weight loss goals using this, and they have a great time. They can be outside running together. That's really important.
No, that means a lot to a player. Instead of being inside in the physical therapy room, to actually be outdoors.
It beats sitting on a broken down stationary bicycle, or being limited to a couple days a week in a pool, or being isolated by yourself on a treadmill while your teammates are out practicing together. They can come out and be on the track or run around the field and be a part of the team. That's really important.
What about older athletes that are running their course in pro sports? Soccer and baseball players can get a few years behind them.
Well, sure, they have to think of joint preservation, and I think unweighted training in itself is a really important component, and we're seeing tremendous growth and popularity in that area because it works, and it's becoming available now to people. So we're going to hear a lot more about unweighted training, and it's so much more fun to be outside doing your training.
What is unweighted training, and what options are there to get it?
Well, people might get it confused. There's low impact training, which is your typical elliptical trainer or stationary bicycle or low impact step aerobics. There's all forms of low impact training available, recumbent stepping machines, but that's not limiting weight bearing entirely. It's not limiting all the impact or shearing forces on people's joints. Unweighting simply removes any body weight necessary to make comfortable exercise available to people. So we can limit people's weight bearing in any range that we want. We can take it off entirely and add it in small increments until they have the desired amount of weight bearing and a comfortable level. Or say after surgery, if a physician wants only 50% weight bearing, we can do that easily. We can do 25% easily and keep them safe. So unweighted training is just a really important tool that's really emerged.
So it sounds like you can actually get athletes back out training earlier.
Absolutely. Earlier, safer. People after fractures, ligament repairs, cartilage or joint injuries, soft tissue injuries can be out here, and they can put less stress while they're training on those tissues than they would just normally walking.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so early recovery, this will obviously accelerate their recovery. recovery to be able to train. They can get their physical conditioning level back up to where they want it to be a lot faster. I mean, before they had to sit on a stationary bike and pedal with one leg, or try to get into a pool and simulate as much as they could in a normal or an abnormal environment in the pool. You know, the pool is great, but it alters gravity to your body, and you don't have immediate functional carryover when you get out of the pool. Unweighted training does not, our unweighted training system here does not alter gravity. Gravity works on your body, it just takes away the impact. So you have immediate carryover.
Wow, that sounds really wonderful. It sounds like you really enjoy your GlideCycle. So on the fun factor from the scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is pumping weights in the gym with your instructor pounding on you, to 10 where you're, swimming in a river, where does this rate?
This is at the very top. When it comes to fun, I can't think of anything more fun. And that's the other thing that's motivating, is this is fun. Who would own one of these and not want to go out and run on it and enjoy it?
Wow.
It's fantastic. You don't have to feel sore and stiff anymore and punished from exercise. And it's just a ball. The freeing motion is incredible. The perceived exertion is less than your actual heart rate and effort going on. I mean, what more could we ask for?
And Cindy, that's a wonderful, wonderful personal experience story that you've told us, working with the GlideCycle company and seeing all the patients that you've had, all the clients you've had, all the sports training individuals that you've worked with. You've worked with probably somewhere pushing close to 2,000 people now.
Oh, it's been a great experience.
It really is. Well, can I see you run away?
Sure.
Go off and enjoy yourself?